I mean, we're at, 90,000 agents strong. And so how has eXp been able to maintain that profitability and adjustment, as we've grown in agent count from 10,000, 30,000? A lot of other companies are not able to sustain that without making substantial changes to their model. What's up, good family? It is Joseph Trujillo, and welcome to our Industry Leaders in Real Estate podcast. And today I have the absolute pleasure to welcome one of the greatest minds in real estate and CEO of eXp Realty, Leo Pareja. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Hey, likewise. It's not very often we have an opportunity to sit here with the CEO. And I know we just had a conversation, offline about all these changes and, everything being at the forefront of real estate. I know that with your experience, I just want to first say congratulations and thank you for everything that you're doing for this amazing company and its agents.
Thank you. I appreciate the kind words, brother.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So one of the things that I wanted to get into, sir, is obviously congratulations for us and for you as a CEO. The second quarter earnings report came out yesterday.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to all of us. It's your guys' hard work.
Absolutely. I wanted to cover a couple of the stats and then I have a question about it, right? And so some of these statistics are just phenomenal. With revenue increasing 5% to $1.2 million. Billion year after year. We also had a adjusted EBITDA, right, of 32.8 million, which is an increase of 22% compared to same time last year.
Yes, sir.
Incredible. And one of the other stats that I thought was just phenomenal was that the company repurchased approximately 48.2 million of common stock during the second quarter of 2024. So with these numbers, obviously they speak for themselves. And in one of the worst markets since 1995, tell us a little bit about like how this is such a game changer for us as agent owners in this amazing company.
So one of the things I talk about, it's funny because a lot of times people say, what's it like to do what you do? And I actually tell them it's exactly what you guys do. Right? We have transactions, we have expenses, and you have to make it work, right? So, 2021 was the highest unit transaction and volume year that we've had since 2006, right? There was close to 7 million resales and new constructions. And so, no one needs to forget that we actually play a finite game, meaning that there is a total amount of transactions to be split amongst the agents who participate. Right. So from 2021 to 2024, we're down 40% as an industry. Mm-hmm. And that's not a individual situation. That's interest rates rose faster than ever in the history of interest rates. I mean, we went from 3% to almost 8% at the peak. That's never happened before. That's literally unprecedented. So that obviously had a massive dampening effect. And we dropped down to what 2024 is on track to be the worst year. We had the best year a couple of years ago. Now we're having the worst year. Right. And so as an enterprise, we have to be agile, which is one of our core competencies. And just like you guys, like, do I need that expense, right? Mm-hmm. So as the market transitioned, everything I do is exactly what you guys need to do, right? Do we need this expense? Can we afford this expense? My guiding principle over the last 2 years with the market shift has been operational excellence. Like, what are we at our core? I'm not confused. There's a lot of other people in my position that claim to be tech companies.
Right.
We're a real estate company. Mm-hmm. And we are a platform that allows real estate entrepreneurs to build whatever size dream they want. So what does that mean? That I want to be the best choice for the agent that sells 4 to 10 homes a year. And I'm just as excited to be in business with the number one agent in the world doing 1,100 transactions in multiple states. But we are a platform that allows you to scale what you want, I would say that most agents don't focus on attraction or recruiting.
Right.
But the ones that do, we created an asset-light model that is aligned in a partnership way, unlike what I think franchisees are. I think the franchisor relationship is actually adversarial. And one is the product and one is the one who reaps the reward. Right? So because franchisors get paid off the top. They actually get paid on rev share.
Exactly.
Right? The franchisor gets paid right off the top in a rev share model, and then the franchisee is left to make some money with what's left over. Our model is different because we take $1 and it's 50 cents to the rev share bucket and 50 cents that is our gross margin. And so that's created this super aligned partnership that allows us to say, look, let me focus on operating the business. And we have, tens of thousands of agents who actively grow the business with us while allowing us to operate, and my goal, like my single obsession over the last 2 years is how can I actually pay you guys the same day you close?
Right.
Like magic, right? Like the real-time payment portals that have come out. Like we've whether it's your commission check or your rev share money, my single North Star was like, how can I pay you as soon as possible? Right? How do I make sure that you have a broker question that can be answered 24/7, 7 days a week? Right? And obviously there's different escalations of issues in the sense of, hey, do I have a question about an addendum, or like, am I sitting at the closing table with a buyer and I need an addendum signed in order to close on time?
Right.
So, operational excellence has been my obsession. And again, I spend a lot of time, and you come to the masterminds I host for the top agents. It's like,
Right.
you guys are doing the exact same thing. I just have a couple more zeros behind what we do. But the goal is, can we afford it? Should we do it? And then how do we prioritize the value proposition in order to do that?
Yeah, yeah, it's so huge. And that operational excellence, I mean, it speaks to everything, right? And the profitability, the sustainability of this company. I mean, we're at, 90,000 agents strong. And so how has eXp been able to maintain that profitability and adjustment, as we've grown in agent count from 10,000, 30,000, a lot of other companies are not able to sustain that without making substantial changes to their model.
Yeah, so one of the things that I think Glenn did so well is that we are, we actually have obsessed with making as much as is possible expenses as variable as revenue, right? And the only reason we can do that is because of the model we have. So a lot of other competitors that have fixed long-term liabilities, leases specifically, you can't get below a certain floor because you've signed leases, right? 3,
Right.
5, 10-year leases. And so like, it doesn't matter how much an adjustment you need to make. There are certain levers you can't pull, right? And since we're asset light, where we don't have those variables, we've gotten really creative with how we staff folks from, almost like a summer break, and then we have VAs in other countries. So we've been this, resourceful and agile to make sure that we can match expenses to revenue, right? Which is really, really hard to do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And a tribute to you and the leadership teams.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, no, it's them. It's, I'm fortunate enough to be able to be part of this team.
Yeah, no, it's phenomenal, sir, and we appreciate your leadership. And it actually, that kind of leadership is exactly what we're noticing in the market, right? And so earlier today we're at an event, and we're speaking about some of the changes in NAR, and you did an excellent job of explaining that to not just eXp agents but agents across other companies. And so I would love for you to kind of expand upon, why eXp and how eXp is just taking a very forward approach. And I know you've led that with these upcoming NAR changes, and how it's going to impact agents here at eXp in their business moving forward.
Yeah. So one of the troubling things that we saw early on is that the settlement's actually confusing. One part contradicts the other part. And then we've had the DOJ give very specific commentary through cease and desist language. And so, we are left to make the tough business decisions, okay, of what do we think is best for our folks. And so, all the changes we've made are specifically to protect you guys from not being sued again, and to make sure that we're compliant. Because, whenever I see a rule, my first question is, who's going to enforce it, right? You come from a law enforcement background.
Right.
Right. What is the enforceability of this rule? I was licensed in DC, Maryland, Virginia. There's one particular rule that in Virginia, if you break it as an agent or as a consumer in real estate, it's up to $1,000 fine. The same rule in the state of Maryland, 6 miles across the river, is up to 1 year in jail.
Wow.
Same rule. So my first question when I saw this is, what's enforceability? And so forget legal liability and litigation. And what we found out at the NAR mid-years, it's MLS enforcement through fines, right? That's a big deal.
Big deal.
Right? That is a big, big deal. And so, we made a business decision as to what to roll out. And literally the only thing in mind is to make sure you guys aren't getting fined and litigated against. So There's going to be a messy middle, which I've been saying since the settlement came out on March 15th. And this too shall pass. A year from now, we won't even remember.
Right.
Right. I remind people that we were probably wiping down vegetables with wipes at the beginning of COVID.
Right.
And then now it just seems ludicrous and funny.
Yeah.
So I think that's what's going to happen. Right. We're going to arrive at a new normal and a new process. And that is that.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that I have noticed with agents that are not with eXp is a lot of them find themselves in a place of vulnerability without leadership. And so what I've absolutely loved that you've done is you've opened up like everything from our documents, our forms, just a complete open opportunity for all agents to be able to, adjust in this time of change. So it just speaks volume about like our leadership and where this company really wants to go with
Look,
leading.
I firmly believe that the beauty of our industry is the cooperation,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not the cooperation compensation. It's the fact that we cooperate with each other to deliver the best possible result for the consumer. And so I don't think that should change. I don't think it should change at all. But we just need to make sure that, given what I would define as an imperfect rule set, right? You come from law enforcement, that's confusing.
Right.
Like, can you just say what's allowed and not allowed? Don't give us, well, that's not allowed, but maybe in some instances it is.
Yeah.
Right. So we're making the decision to say, okay, if that's not allowed, it should never be allowed. Is there an alternative to do something similar to it while adhering to the rules? And that's our best interpretation. And I said, if we have new information, we're happy to adjust, but we're super clear as to what it says.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find yourself getting asked and providing a lot of guidance to independent broker owners and such?
I keep hearing anecdotally that our stuff is what independents and franchisees are doing because they're not getting any support from anywhere else.
Right. Right. And so as our agents move forward in this process, we know that there's tons of resources and information the amount of time that it takes you and the leadership team to get the information, gather it, analyze it, assess it, and then get it out in the field is like phenomenal.
We're doing the best we can.
Yeah.
We're trying to go as fast as possible.
It's awesome. So I absolutely love the way you're leading that, sir. I appreciate you. So the other thing about our leadership that I wanted to kind of, pick your brain about is, with eXp being in, a national company, international company.
By the way, I got to interrupt you live. I'm getting a text message from one of our agents who said, this agent just signed a $2.5 million listing using Leo's new contract because of the noise the media is making about our farms.
Wow.
So, like, text, right? So again, that's kind of perfect timing.
It is.
But because we're actually getting recognition from third parties, the Consumer Federation of America said our buyer broker agreement is the gold standard. And yesterday they came out and said that our listing is the gold standard.
That's awesome.
So again, we're just trying to do the best we can with imperfect information during a very troubling time and having to make a tough choice.
Yeah, well, that's what great leaders and disruptors do. So yeah, it's phenomenal to be part of the company. Yeah, I was on the opposite side of the table, many of those conversations. However, I can value and appreciate, like the stance and the position that, a veteran and a leader in the industry has taken with it. And it just serves so much purpose for us as agents. And I know you've paid particular attention to, how leadership in local markets are having an impact on changing agent lives. And so I'd love for you to kind of share a little bit. We're in the Southern California market. You've seen eXp become the largest brokerage in the state of California now. And so local leadership has had an impact with that. And you've always been our go-to on the leadership conversation.
Yeah, so
share with that.
The way Glenn puts it, which I love, is that we're an experiment in distributed leadership. Right. So most other franchises, organizations, corporate owned, what happens is you have a layered ranking, kind of like a military of, lieutenants and others who are there to grow the business. And there's like bonuses and everything else. Glenn from the beginning took half the money and said, I'm going to partner with the people who choose to build a business with me. It's an option. It's like, that's one of the things is where our recruiters know, actually like 80% of you have 0 people in their front line.
Yeah.
Right. And again, the agent journey in real estate, and I was at Keller Williams, I was an agent, I was a mega team leader, and then I bought a franchise. Right. And it's very typical.
Right.
Right. First of all, this is an easy way without having to sign a 10,000 square foot lease and a 12-year franchise agreement with crazy fees. where it's like, hey, look, if I want to do this, I can dip my toe, and if it works, I can go all in. Or it could always just be a, side hustle for me.
Right.
But the way Glenn created the incentive, the coolest part about, I have the pleasure of being your CEO, but like I serve you guys, and that, like, I think that,
Right.
in the sense of you guys are the leaders, right? You guys sell this company. Like I can come in and kind of make you help close because I'm a pretty good closer and I know my scripts.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's you guys, right? We're here to support what you guys are building.
Yeah, and it's been tried and true, and you guys support you, Glenn, always just like leading the charge with that. And it would seem difficult from the outside looking in. I admittedly, when I was making the change to EXP, I wondered what that was going to be like in a virtual, environment. And so one thing that was clear to me was culturally, this company just is like it's like family. And so we've been able to break those barriers, and I think it's one of the biggest misnomers about EXP. Share with us a little bit, because you've been on the franchise brick and mortar side of the
Yeah,
house.
no, it's funny that some of our competitors say we don't collaborate. I think this is the most collaborative environment I've ever been in my life.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, if you've never owned a franchise, who you compete like savage pirates, even though we're flying the same flag because my invisible line crosses this side of the street, that's competition,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you own a franchise, doesn't matter if you're wearing the same jersey, you are fierce competitors, versus we actually collaborate
Yeah.
incredibly well in this company and we all get better together.
Yeah. And with that collaboration, what do you see from the CEO side of the house? Or do you see what type of agents, what kind of avatar agents are being more attracted to EXP in the current market? Is it the veterans or is it newer agents? What
No,
do you see?
and so I think in the beginning we were a tech forward, younger fit, just because it was different, right? We meet in a metaverse. But the really cool part, especially like I get to step in at a mature stage of the company.
Right.
I mean, I truly think we attract any and all agent type. And I statistically know that because I know what our avatar mix is.
Right.
We have very statistically average comparable stats across the board. So that means new agents, part-time agents, full-time agents, and then super agents, right? We have like whatever NAR has, we have.
Yeah.
But I would say that, at the concentration of the top, our top 250 teams last year sold north of 69,000 homes.
Wow.
That would have made them the 6th largest independent brokerage in the country.
Just them.
So I always say people attract people,
Mm-hmm.
right? What we have now proven is anyone can go to a website, hit copy paste, and claim it be us.
Right.
But that's not us, right? The magic, I think, is in the humans.
No, it absolutely is. Yeah, the collaboration of all these superstars is just phenomenal. And everybody's sharing the secret sauce. Yeah.
Well, that's the other misnomer. There is no secret sauce. But it's actually learning, practicing, role playing, collaborating, asking questions that you get that you can't hit copy paste on.
Oh no, absolutely not. And you've been phenomenal in being able to bring new systems, technologies, programs for our agents that are helping us elevate through lead resources and such. We're very familiar. I've shared quite often about some of those programs that are available to us. What can we see in the future from EXP as it relates to agent?
Yeah, I mean, look, Glenn's North Star,
Mm-hmm.
which is my North Star now, is to be the most agent-centric company in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually heard some of our competitors make fun of it. It's like, no, we haven't changed. Like, it was actually quoted in the press releases for our earnings call, right? Like, it is our North Star, and I recently made a post and I talked about the sample size of one, right? I think too many of us forget that we're actually a pretty smart consumer, right? And I say to people, it's like, okay, what do you love?
Mm-hmm.
What do you buy, and how do you spend your money? And in the post I talked about, I open my mail over the trash can. I don't pick up strangers' calls.
Mm.
Like the last time I bought something from a cold call or a piece of direct mail, I don't actually remember. But I've probably bought 2 or 3 things off Instagram on a very well placed ad, right? And so I think of us the same way, right? Like, the reason I choose Apple over something else is because the ecosystem is frictionless. The goal of enterprise is to remove friction from the process. So, whenever we bring on a new product or service, my obsession is how do I deliver that in the user experience in a way that makes your life easier, not more complicated, right? I don't want you to have one more login. I don't want you to have to remember one more password,
Right.
right? Like, where can I put this in your workflow? And more specifically, when you need it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the tribute to why we have agents from every spectrum that are, you know, easily adapting to what we're able to provide here at eXp and then find accelerated growth. And a lot of that has to do with, I share this oftentimes when I'm talking with individuals about um, duplicated success, right? And so that's something that I've noticed at eXp, and it separates us from, you know, a lot of our competitors. Is it the platform? Is it the model? Like with so many different virtual companies that are out there, from your perspective, what separates us exorbitantly from everybody else?
That's a great question. So, a couple things. One is we are a scaled, sustainable, profitable business. That's a big deal, especially moments like this. We were built for a moment like this. And, you know, especially if you are going to invest your time, energy, and money in building a rev share business.
Mm,
Because unlike any other business you've built, whether it's an escrow company, a real estate company, a lending business, those are solely dependent on your efforts.
true.
Right? If you come and spend 3, 5, 10 years building a rev share business and we didn't build a model that will survive you, like you wasted your time. Right there, a unprofitable business at its core is extremely dangerous from the ability for it to survive and actually become an asset. And so from a sustainability standpoint, that's super important. And the second thing I will say, you know, I in my personal journey, I have attributed 80% of my success to right time, right place.
Mm,
And again, yes, I work really hard. And I've always felt like I've outworked the competition, but there was many things, if I was not at the right place at the right time, it wouldn't have played out. And so I actually think Glenn started this company at the right time
right.
and at the right place and fought a really hard uphill battle for a decade where people said, what are you talking about? Like
Mm-hmm.
virtual what?
Yeah.
Right. And then we had a moment out of all of our control in COVID where they're like, this is the future. And it's like, I've been saying that for 10 years.
Yeah.
And so from COVID on to here, we've actually experienced massive growth with a lot of pivots and improvements and breakage, right? Like what I would say to anybody who's, you know, going somewhere for a startup opportunity or a ground floor opportunity, I would remind you on the statistical failure of startups. Like it's like 99%.
Right.
Right. And especially the ones that chose to take our model and discount it on every angle and every corner. I would invite you to learn our financials because we run a very thin margin business. I mean, we're 1 to 1.5%. So if you go and make your business 5% cheaper than ours,
Mm-hmm.
you better understand the back end and the expenses and everything you started off on the call because like we're surgical at this. You
Right.
know, we are the most efficient company on the planet from a unit economic basis, and that's not my words. Those are Mike Del Preti's words. Those are
Mm-hmm.
all the covering financial analysts that we are the most efficient. In even the ones who claim to be using a lot more technology, they're as efficient as us, but they bring in half the revenue as us. And so, you know, some companies they probably burned close to $100 million to get to close to what we did. We did it profitably. We're leading with revenue.
Mm-hmm.
And so sustainability is super important. I think the last decade, thanks to abominations of private equity and growth capital, we saw people grow for the sake of growth. And we saw companies go public through SPACs. And we saw companies go public that bleed money. And their entire business model was to set cash on fire. And not one of them has actually scaled. And so, you know, I would say anyone who says, hey, we will make money when we get to scale or when we get to this, look, if you lose 5 cents an apple and you sell more apples, you're not gonna make it up in volume.
Right.
The fundamental business model needs to scale.
Mm. Such a great point. Yeah, I remember seeing Michael Del Preti's presentation at Inman last year, and he did a great illustration of that. Yeah, it was top notch. And so the follow up that I would have to that is with that scalability, share with us a little, as much as you can, about what the future of real estate looks like with eXp in the next few years. Like, how do you envision our scalability and our
this is
growth?
one of the things I think about. I think in my lifetime, I've seen 2 or 3 watershed moments.
Mm.
And the first one was in the late 90s, early 2000s with the internet. And specifically it was URLs and email, right? That changed the world, right? I've been licensed long enough where I was doing it with fax machines, right? And so that changed the game. And then the second one was 5 or 6 years later with mobile computers in our phones, in our pockets. I no longer had to be at the office in order to do certain things. I could do it on the fly. And I think we're living through probably the third one that I've witnessed. Again, I've seen people say the advent of large language models and AI is fire. I'm like, I don't know about that far.
Yeah.
But do I think it's as important as those two that I've witnessed in my 42 years? I think so. And just like in the last two, like this is a really real example. I was a broker, in my early 20s. And I remember arguing with an agent who said, I don't know about this email thing. I'm just going to do fax and phone. Like, I don't know if this will stick. And I remember saying to her, this is happening, right? And what I saw happen with both of those shifts are the agents who adopted it beat the ones that didn't, right? So a lot of things are like, AI is going to put it up business. I said, no. Agents who use AI are going to put agents that don't use AI out of business.
Right.
And in both of those shifts, they on the onset, I think people think they're going to be more impactful, but in the short term, it's not. But in the long term, it is. So at the beginning, it was like, okay, that's no big deal. But like when the iPhone came out, it was like, I remember actually debating with someone excited BlackBerry, and it was like, well, that's just a toy, right? V1 was.
Yeah.
V1 was. But, version 15 I'm on
Right.
is the remote control to my life.
Incredible. Yeah.
Right?
So good.
And what I'll say is that both of those shifts, and this is what I'm predicting with the third one, compressed time, which is another example I talk about a lot, right? Compressing time, I've obsessed with that since my early 20s, where like if I can pay someone or something to like have that matrix moment of I know Kung Fu, it just seems like such a good use of time energy, right? And what I think technology does for the people that spend the time to learn it, it compresses time. And so whether you're using, like a real example, I used ChatGPT, remodeling my master bath the other day. True story. I had a very specific space for a cabinet, and I wanted his and hers vanities, and I wanted a makeup setup in the middle for my wife, and then I wanted specific measurements, and I couldn't find anything online to show the carpenter. And I pulled out my phone as I was going to bed, and I started writing prompts. And I described it's 112 inches from left to right. I want a 36-inch here. And it took 5 different trial and errors. But what I actually have in my master bath today was designed in ChatGPT.
Wow.
And I handed to the carpenter with measurements. And he said, cool, right? So there is so many applications in our world right now that we're just scratching the surface on.
Yeah. Compressing time is so important. It's actually one of the things I speak about with, I collaborate a lot with industry leaders, right? And what I'd love for you to share is like, I'd love for you to speak to the future industry leaders in real estate.
So,
right?
So look, and I've said this for a long time, so if I'm wrong, it's on record. I firmly believe consumers will choose in my functional lifetime to have their hand held by a professional. And one of the analogies I've used a lot is the Sherpa, right? In today's world with YouTube, there's not a single thing that you and I can say we want to do that we can't learn on the internet.
Right.
Which is a game changer, right? Like I moved to South Florida and I learned how to spearfish with YouTube. I can learn to what I should eat, what workout I should do, what gear to buy to climb Mount Everest. There's a how-to video on it. But when I get to the base of Everest and I'm about to ascend this thing that could end my life, and the analogy would be financially.
Right.
I want that local expert who's done this 400 times to carry my stuff, and it's emotional or physical, right? But I really want them to actually lead the way and go, hold on, stop. Those clouds are a storm, and we should either do one of two things. We should turn around and live to fight another day and do this at a later time, or find a new one, right?
Yeah.
Or, you know what, let's set up camp, let's take a nap, let's let it pass. And, I joke, and the analogy would be like, is that a settlement crack or is that a structural crack? right? It's that expert to say, let's get a second opinion. Let's order this. I know a person. I know a trusted professional, right? And like, let's shop the rate. Let's make sure you're getting the best deal on escrow. Let's make sure you're getting the proper insurance. Like, okay, this is a new construction. Are we getting some longer add-on construction insurance to make sure that everything's working? Like, don't accept what they give you, right? When you get the title insurance policy. Like there's a bunch of exceptions here, and it's a short form. Be like, no, I want the long form with no exceptions on it.
Yeah.
And a consumer just doesn't know that, right? And that's why I think the Sherpa analogy is so strong, right? It's like, look, there is nothing you can't Google today.
Right.
The internet has made it a perfect record of lots of opinions. But like the first time I went spearfishing, I still hired a local expert in the Keys who'd been doing it since he was 17 years old to be in the water with me, to make sure I didn't hurt myself with the spear gun, and to point out the fish I'm legally allowed to shoot, and which ones. More than once he's did this with my gun because I was about to shoot, a federally protected fish that the Florida wildlife would have come looking for me.
Right.
And so that's the value in expert.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's one of our key components, being an expert.
Well, and that's the part that I don't mince my words. Like, if you coming to the industry I love, and this is how you want to feed your family, please take it seriously.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no part-timing. Yeah.
Look, you can part-time to get into the business, but like, learn the craft. Like, you are helping people with a very important financial decision.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. Well, sir, the last question I got for you is the global question, right? I think that's another key separator of what we're doing in this company. Yeah, so I'd love for you to touch on that.
So I spent a month on the road in the summer visiting continental Europe, and I think I was in 4 countries, and I came back so excited, so energized, right? I think our model is even more interesting overseas. And the reason being is because, first of all, we know what we know now, right? Like, I don't know what I don't know. Phase 1 of life is difficult, but it's like the difference between your first kid and your second kid, right? The second kid got the benefit of your learning on the first kid.
Right.
So internationally, we have all of the lessons learned, and it's not nearly as fiercely competitive as it is in the US. So, there's more interesting models. And one of the things that Glenn and I are really focused on right now is localizing the model, right? Like, okay, what is missing in this ecosystem? Because that's actually what Glenn did the first time, right? In the US, it's like, okay, ownership is important, and real revenue is important and meaningful, while still having the integrity of a cap and all the other things that the predecessors have done before us. So as we go into, many, many more countries, we're going to take this like hyper local approach, which, when you see US companies succeed in other countries, it's like, McDonald's in France has a different menu than the one in the US.
Right.
Right. And so it's having that cultural respect to do it in language, in market, in culture, in customs, to take what we've done so well, but actually make it their own.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that was just really clear to me, and I've done a lot of travel in my previous occupation, was the impact that this model has internationally on agents is unexplainable. I mean, it changes agents' lives in the US, but internationally, it is so prevalent. So the global expansion just kind of speaks for itself. Yeah, I know you've seen that firsthand.
Oh, absolutely. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, we're excited. And sir, I want to thank you for being on the show and being a partner and a great leader in our company.
I appreciate that.
Appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time. I was here with the one and only Leo Pareja for Industry Leaders in Real Estate. We'll see you on the next show.